Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Empyrion Galactic Survival, Reforged Eden 1.10. We're on a dread planet. My name is Winslow, and today we're working on a ship. I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and didn't know what I wanted to design, but then remembered there's a crashed shuttle on this planet that I've already encountered. So we're going to go see if we can retrieve it and fix it up, see how it does. So I am just using some of my unlock points here to get the basics. We need generators, fuel tanks, and thrusters to get it started. I can then later add in oxygen and other storage and other quality of life bits and pieces. And I won't be able to carry everything I need out there because I'm going to it's just my inventory space on the hover bike. But then this should eliminate our need for having to use the hover bike. And I'm not going to head out there until I get enough to get it off the ground. So let's go tear apart the shuttle a little bit. Lazy walker. I've decided I do like the hover bike. It flies a lot better if you don't just floor it. The problem is when you're going full speed and you bump into an object is when it then goes upright and flies up toward the sky. I pick my foot up off the gas, as it were, when heading toward an object. It doesn't quite follow all of the same rules as a regular hover vehicle. But again, still better than being on foot and about 1,000 times better than the old motorbike. Thrusters, fuel, generator. That should do it. Watching constructors is probably the best part about Empyrion, to be honest. Okay. Didn't quite get the last generator, but I have the small generators. That should be more than enough to get what we need. But maybe I can make, well, yeah. What do we get from these? Stuff that I need. Okay. Well, especially the consoles and the LCDs. Let's get rid of those. Because I can definitely use computers and electronics. Any kind of those components really help because you go through them pretty fast. No matter how many you think you have, you might always need more until you get into a lot of higher end salvaging. Okay. I think the basics will be good enough just to. All I need to do is get the ship off the ground and fly it here. Because any other repairs I'm going to be doing, I'm bringing the ship to my stockpile here. I'm not going to be bringing the stockpile to the ship. So, but I really think that just a couple generators, fuel tank, and fuel. Yes. And that I'll be able to... I don't think I'll be able to carry that with me, though it would be nice to salvage some stuff on the way. But I'm not... The large container is great. 8,000 capacity. But I don't think the few thrusters that I've brought with me would be able to really have any sort of cargo lift. So I think we're pretty limited. Now the shuttle, I believe, is made out of steel, which means that it's going to be... It's not going to be super heavy. It's just going to be heavy enough. Okay, so it's got a couple components in it. Just a basic... I mean, it's just a basic shuttle. I do like that it has the med station. That cloning station there, unfortunately, is not the right station for the shuttle. That's the hover vessel cloning station. So that prevents me from blueprinting it while that's in it, because it's a illegal block on this craft. But I don't think I'm going to need a clone station, knocking on wood, while we're dealing with that. I just want to put engines in and turn it on. Thrusters. I always say engines, but thrusters. And I wasn't able to carry enough thrusters to meet all of the directional requirements, but I'm more concerned with having enough, just having upward and forward thrust to get it off the ground. And then reverse thrust just to be able to park. Okay. It's gonna be ugly. It's gonna work just fine. I like this shuttle because I've never used this before on a Dreadstart, but I like this shuttle because it does have some decent interior walking space, which means you can put in your survival components. Like you can put in a mobile constructor, and you can put in a food processor, and you can put in, your oxygen, your armor, things like that, shield components. This isn't going to be any sort of combat ship or anything. This is survival shuttle. Get around. Let's loot the rest of the planet. And then go out and see what's up in space. And make a cockpit. Needs a cockpit. I thought that seat was a pilot seat, but it's just a passenger seat. So you can't fly from the passenger seat. So I had to come back and make a cockpit. But while I'm here, I might as well bring extra components for greater chance of getting it home. I could see the Dreadstart here being a lot more of a challenge if this is labeled as a very hard, air quote, very hard challenge. And it is definitely a difficult challenge, because you have a limited amount of time with limited supplies to figure out what you're going to do. And if you're just on foot running around, you're going to run out of oxygen before you know it. I could see there being some form of like insectoid or alien life on the planet that you would have to fight off, like maybe even just spiders, just the regular, not the Pluton spiders, because F those guys, really hard. But just the regular Erebus spiders would be fine. Or even passive creatures like the sandworms. Just something, but I mean, it is a dead planet, so everything is dead on it. There's nothing living. There's really just everything that was here is gone. And there's quests later on that you can do to kind of find out what happened to some of the dead planets. Um, but when I did it, I really didn't like it. I didn't like the end gauntlet. But you'll see that eventually. Well, it lifts. This thing is not going to win any beauty pageants, but, you know, we've made it. I'm really glad that there's not like collision damage in Empyrion like there is in Space Engineers. The collision damage in Space Engineers is often funny, but generally I don't actually enjoy it with that because it's a bit too much. I also like Empyrean a lot more because once you build a ship or get a ship, there's actually stuff to do. There's a whole galaxy to explore. Merchants to visit, and resources to harvest. And you could be a pirate, or you could hunt pirates. It's a good time. Okay, so we got it home. I'm just gonna cut the power and start cleaning it up. I'm gonna repair the damaged blocks and salvage the broken decorative blocks, because even though they look cool and you can kind of fake it to have like some damage that you've then patched and repaired, I don't want those on the finished ship. I'm going to take out all of the components because that's not going to be their final resting place. Also, I'm going to use larger generators and fuel tanks. It just cost me one dual powered fuel cell to get it home. Not even that. Gotta make sure to save that detector. But yeah, I think this is going to be a sturdy little ship. It's got some spots in the front for, I believe, for Gatlings. So I can have guns, which I won't even need for a while. I don't even think there's enemies in space around this planet. I'll have to go check that out. And I'm going to take out all of the truss blocks because trussing is... I mean, while it looks cool, it's one of the worst things that you can put on a ship. And then I'm gonna need to salvage some more steel blocks so I can just make enough building blocks. But make sure to repair everything and it's like popping the dents out with a plunger. So the small shuttle, I'm going to be using the bits from the small shuttle for my small vessel. And then I think once I get ready for a capital vessel, I'm going to go toward the big shuttle. Because the big shuttle's got plenty of thrusters. It's got lots of fuel tanks, lots of oxygen, lots of RCS that I can go salvage. It's got 2 warp drives and 2 pentaxid tanks that I can pick up. I don't think it has a shield. But it's got a lot of crop plots for if I want to have crops on a ship, or if I decide to build a base somewhere, I'll have all my crop plots set. I kind of like the idea of, building a permanent base on the dead planet, because I won't have to worry about any base attacks or anything. But also, base attacks are fun. I like when the Xerax or whoever on the planet you've angered comes to attack your base. It's especially fun if it's pirates. It's not so fun if it's Talon, because their medicine man, I think it's the medicine man, will shut off your shield. And then they'll just start blasting your blocks out. But I'm just using this. What I'm doing is I'm just copying the blocks from one of these nacelles to the other, and it's just you just hit Control and click, and it will copy that exact block shape and paint schematic or paint scheme. And I'm just doing that to make it go a little bit faster, and just to make sure that I'm getting the same shape and block. And okay, I think the thruster housing is pretty much done for these. I'm going to need to build a couple more thrusters. And I'm putting my generators next to the thrusters, which is not really a smart idea if you are going to have a ship that is combat oriented. When your ship starts taking damage after your shields are down, it is a pretty fast cascade failure for the remaining life of your ship. If they blow up your fuel tanks or your generators, they have a damage blast radius, and they'll damage the blocks around them. So if you have a lot of fuel tanks clustered up, when they explode, it'll be a larger explosion. Same thing with generators, especially the same thing with shield components. They have, in Reforged 110, they increased the explosion radius for shield components, shield parts. So like I used to have shields around all my CPU stuff, and now absolutely not. Will not have shields anywhere near CPU on any ship. I think that this is ready for a preliminary test flight. I need to go out and get some more advanced components. And on my travels around the planet, I found the deep space satellite array. There's a bunch of antennas and 2 bunkers that have a lot of consoles in them, and the consoles are a great source for computers and electronics. So I think we're going to get this field up and fly out and visit those and see what we get. And then all I really need to do is work on getting oxygen and fuel, and there's lots of oxygen and fuel depots on the Dread planet. I could imagine that this ship would have quite a kickback and backfire sequence upon first starting it, but it's coming along. I think I'm going to enjoy it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and dismantle some of this solar array, some of these solar panels while we're on our way. The antenna array is near the North Pole, so a good source for substrate, carbon substrate, and all basic materials. Carbon substrate's really the one thing on the Dread planet for the basics that is a little bit more difficult to manufacture if you're needing to like make something big. I would not recommend a big composite build on the Dread Start planet because there's no plants. You can get dead plants from various bases and turn those into carbon because you can salvage them for plant fiber. And there's a couple POIs that have like wood walls. But beyond that, you're not going to get a lot of carbon. And there's building with carbon for some ships can get really expensive. Even some of my modest ships still require 3,000 or 4,000 carbon substrate, and that's a lot to get on this type of planet. This thing flies about as you would expect. Kind of like pushing a garbage can down a hill. Gonna need some refinement, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. Normally I go the traditional route and make a hover vessel and then a small vessel and then a capital ship, and it's not that I wanted to just bypass that, but I don't need a hover vessel on this ship. The only time I really need a HV is if I'm on a planet where I can harvest lots of trees and there are no trees here, or if I'm on a planet where I can harvest meteorites or resource nodes or fight stuff in a tank, and none of that is here. So I don't know what planet I plan on going to after this. I might work on unlocking Polaris trade routes in and around the Epsilon system, which is where the Dread planet is, by the way. It's in one of the 5 starter systems in Reforged Eden. It's in Epsilon. And I'm in orbit near a gas giant. So there's a lot of stuff in space around this planet too. There's a lot of like debris and destroyed ships and stuff. There was something that happened on the planet as they were escaping where a lot of stuff got left behind, and there's a lot of debris in orbit. But that just means more stuff for me to salvage. I think there's even a chance that there's fuel pods up there that I might get pentaxid or promethium, maybe pellets, or I would take pellets, or actual fuel cells. But that is about as much as I really want to carry in this ship as far as weight is concerned. That's a heavy bucket. But Winslow, you got too many holes in your ship. You can't go to space yet. No, I can't go to space yet. It reminds me of the Winnebago from Spaceballs, which coincidentally I used to have as a blueprint for Empyrion, and I haven't seen it for a long time. It was fairly well done, but it was annoying and nearly impossible to walk around on the inside. Good times. Just imagine them beep, beep, beep as it bumbles around. So I finished the repair and build out. I even put some deco on it. I got my thruster housings set, and I put 2 of the cargo containers, the large cargo containers in there. So it is a total of 16,000 cargo capacity. And there's a couple shutter doors with force fields because those are not airtight. And I needed to pop out the hull a little bit. And the last piece here is just some ramps. I can place them, I swear. Now the one thing I need to do now is I've capped out. I've actually even gone over my CPU. So I need to, before I do anything else, before I put any guns or anything on it, I need to build a CPU extender, the basic extender. And for that, I need platinum ingots. And all I've found, not platinum, titanium ingots. And all I found here is titanium plates. So I'm going to have to do some searching. I need 20 titanium plates. There might be titanium in orbit, but I believe there is actually titanium on one of the moons. So prepping for that, next time I think we're going to be going out into space and exploring what we can find. And the last thing I'm doing is just setting up some simple signal logic. Signal logic in Empyrion is not great, but it's also pretty cool when it works. I like attaching landing related stuff to the landing gear. When the landing gear goes out when you're on the ground or docked, that turns the signal on. And what I want is for when landing, I want the doors to come up and the ramps to go out. But then when lifting off, I want them to all close. And the ramps always work in reverse because ramp extended is considered powered. There we are. Okay. So there we have it. The exploration shuttle has been restored and has some added stuff to it. I'm going to wrap this up here, and next time we'll be going up into space to go see what's there. I want to thank you all for joining me. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you hanging out, and we'll see you next time. Bye.